Hello and welcome to Colin Bradley Artcast. I'm Stephen Bradley.
And I'm Colin Bradley.
How you doing, Dad?
I'm better-ish, Steve.
Getting
Taking a little
better?
while. Yes, oh yes, yes. I'm ready for tomorrow, actually, coming up to see you and your show, and really looking forward to it. Been looking forward to it for months now, but this finally arrived. So it's going to spend some time with you as well, which is lovely.
Yeah,
So all being well, but yeah, it's one of those things, and I'm sure people have found this. You find when you've got a especially when you're a little bit older, you find it a little more difficult to bounce back. In the old days, as I said last week, I used to just work it off. If I felt a bit unwell, I'd just go and carry on as normal. Well, you can
mm,
do that because you're using the energy and stimulus. But when you're in the situation we're in now, and especially when you get older, it's not quite so easy, but it's working. And we're both, in fact, the whole family is okay at the moment, so that's good news.
good, good, excellent. Yeah, looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. Um, Last week we talked about the elephant picture that you'd sketched out and made a start. How is that progressing?
It's going very well. Quite a few changes from the original I was talking to you about last week, but I'm really enjoying it. There's something's happened really over the last couple of years. I think the last elephant picture must be a few years ago I did, and I think that was with the normal ombre paper. And you had to fight that a little bit, the texture. Well, Pastelmat, you don't have to. You've got another um, slight hiccup to get over with Pastelmat, in as much as you've got to build the colour up more. But in that building of the colour and the colours and the details that I've been doing, it's added even more interest to it. And this is culminating now, I think, with the pictures we're doing now. And certainly I've got a few now in the future that are going to be testing in a way, but I think they're going to come out stunning. And this one is very, very intriguing. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about it when we see the pictures. But the one thing that has helped me here, and it helped me with the tiger and the wolf, is the light grey pastel paper. I was resisting that for a while. As you know, I've been using the other colours. But this when you're doing this kind of picture, it it's like an additional colour for you. You don't have to work quite so hard in building up those colours. If it was a stronger color, you'd have to work hard to get that lightness in. Here it's already there, so you've got something better to, and you'll see that I think in the picture.
Great stuff. Well, let's remind everyone where we were at last week. Let me see. This is where we left it last
Hmm.
week. You just started the sky, and started putting the base colours in on the elephant as well. We can see that there,
Yes.
um, and your sketch is still coming through
Hmm.
um, that light first initial coat, isn't it? So it's still giving you that guidelines of where your shading should be.
Hmm. Exactly, and that again has helped me enormously. And this is only what 3 pictures old, really, from the idea of doing the sketch. I think it would happen. It was a tiger. When I did the tiger, I found it easier to sketch it out. And when I sketched it out, I thought, why do I need to now produce a line drawing? I don't, because it was on the light grey pastel, and you can see from that how it's turning out. And what you don't have to do here, especially if you've got the kind of colouring that I'm using, which is the greys, you don't have to get rid of the graphite. You've got to go over the top of it, and that helps. And you're going to
Mm.
see that in evidence in a minute, how
Mm.
you can kind of, it gives you a start really when you're doing something like this. I mean,
Mm.
you still got to work at it. It's not. it's not going to be a walk in the park when any artwork, but you'll see the difference I've made on the first picture, and we're going to show a second stage. I haven't quite finished it yet. We've still got a little bit to do, and I've still got all the background and the camouflage, if you like, not camouflage, the all of the bits and pieces in the foreground to concern myself with. But the main thing is the elephant. That's the most important. And I did start, and I think, yes, I think the second picture I'm going to show you will actually show this, the beginning of the background on because I had to do when you're doing a picture like this, you've got to back it up a little bit. So I've had to, when you're doing a tusk, for instance, when we get down to the tusks, you can't just do the tusk. You've got to do the surround of the tusk where it touches the elephant, not where it touches the background. Because if you don't do that, you haven't got anything to work with. You see what I mean? Against. And I found this is fascinating, intriguing. But we'll carry on, and we'll go on for the next one, which is which I hope will surprise people. There you go.
You're just starting to see that realism now in terms of the textures of the elephant, and you can see in such a massive difference, especially at the bottom of the ear and the drawing. You know, like what a transformation.
Well, if you split the elephant in two there, where the eyes and the ear on the left is, that's virtually finished. There's very little added now to that, and I got it more or less as I wanted it. Now, the other side, I deliberately left that in its halfway stage, and you can see that it's unfinished. But when you see the next picture, you'll see how that has transformed into what I needed. But by putting that in, you have that contrast that helps you. And you've got to keep adding and adding and adding. Now, one of the things you can't do with this, and I tell people before they begin, you can't rub anything out. If you start erasing, you're going to spoil the picture. So you've got to kind of work on it and keep working on it, gradually building those tones up. And that's what makes it successful. What also, just ahead of this, if you look at the head from the eye down to the tusks, it's flat. Everything's flat. Okay? Now what you've got to do is make that round. How do you do that? Well, there's several things you can do, and one of the things you'll see when I show the next picture is you can see how that begins to unfold as we work our way down to the trunk. Initially I was going to leave it there, carry on with the body, and finish the trunk. I actually said on the video, no, I'll leave the rest. I couldn't do that. I found that it was impossible to actually stop halfway down something like that. You've got to kind of finish it. So you're being dictated to, really, Steve. You're being, the picture is dictating to you. There's another thing that I'm not really very happy with, and you see it very obvious on this. Now, it's on the original photographic reference. I've followed that, but you see where the back leg, further back leg, you've got a little like overspill, belly overspill, I call it. And I don't like that. So I'm actually going to get rid of that. You'll see that next week. That's it. I don't like it. It's on the picture. And if I'm faithful to the photographic reference, then I would leave it there. But it didn't look right. It doesn't look right. So how do you get over that? How do you change that? Well, what I do, and I haven't done it yet, but I will be looking at other elephants, and see what happens with them. And then I shall make it up. So all these little things, when you're doing a picture like this, you're constantly trying to make it yours. And that, I think, is a little bit ugly, to be honest. It's a bit of overspill. I don't know, maybe I can't even begin to imagine what that is.
Maybe it's just a little bit distracting for
Mm,
the
mm,
viewer. I suppose when you're looking at a photograph of this, you wouldn't question the photograph. But if you're looking at a picture that maybe exaggerates something like that, and you just go, your eyes are drawn to it, and you
mm.
think, well, what's that? And you don't want that of the viewer.
That's right, exactly. And that's what you've got to do. And again, being an artist, you've got to do it. But of course, you're on your own. You've got to do it. You can't. You can guess it, but it's not worth guessing. What I've done in the past, I've done this. I've looked at other animals, and how does that axis sit with another animal, and then adapted. I've done it before, and I should do it again, because when you see the next picture, which is a lot of it's only um, the legs at the bottom there that I haven't done yet, and well, not finished yet. But you can see that it still doesn't look right. It looks better than it does on that drawing, admittedly, but it's not right. So I've got to do something about it. I don't think it's going to be a major problem, but I left it there because it's easier for me, especially when we're doing a podcast like this and an analysis like this, gives me an opportunity to say, this is the problem I've got. I'm going to get over it. And then hopefully next week it will be there. Or it won't be there, rather.
Let's have a look at this final picture for today of your progress. It's this one here. So
Now I've
that's
left. Sorry, Steve, carry on.
no, I just say that's such a it feels like it's really coming to life now.
Mm, mm. Well, I deliberately put the other picture there so you could see this. But you see what I've done and what is there. I haven't. I've been faithful to the picture, but you can see that that's not going to work. I could leave it, but I'm not going to. But
Yeah, it's not to me. It's not as massively distracting as I thought it would be. Looking at that, I actually think, yeah, okay, I probably wouldn't question it now that I'm seeing your picture, but I can
yeah,
see why you would probably still want to remove it.
yes, it won't be a problem. And you see, now the thing is, didn't I say something to you earlier on in this podcast? You can't rub anything out. So how am I going to get over that then? Am I going to rub it out because I don't like it? I'm probably not going to be able, need to do it because the colours that I can use, I can cover it up. But we'll find out next week. I'll let you know. But in a case of an emergency, I probably would have to. Probably what I would do rather than actually rub it out, I would take it off with a putty rubber as best I can.
Hmm. I just wanted to zoom in because it was asking me to zoom in because I just wanted to see what this looked like up close, and I suppose the equivalent of this is getting your picture and looking at it and going, and putting it really up close into your face because I just wanted
Mm,
to see that trunk and those lines are so probably very small, but
mm.
from that distance, that texture looks so real.
It's 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 not easy to do, I've got to tell you, but it's possible, as you can see. And
And this
uh,
section here as well,
yeah,
the
I
folds in
love,
the skin.
and don't you love the color too? I mean, if you look at the picture away, I mean, I've been quite faithful to the color that you see, but I haven't made it quite so ochre.
Hmm.
Now, interestingly enough, when do you put the ochre in? That's a question I could pose to our podcast listeners. When do you put that? It's 182. Now, 182 is I'm sure people know it's like an ochre mid-tone ochre color. I've used it an awful lot. Now, how do you put that into that picture? If you were looking at that picture now, that and your picture,
Hmm.
how are you going to interpret it?
Yeah, yeah, tough one. I mean, Do you think it's because do you put it in after? Because it doesn't look like you've got a lot of dark grey in this. Like you've put hints of dark grey, but you've not covered the thing with dark grey. You've not covered the elephant. So you go light grey ochre, then dark grey.
I'll tell you how I did it. And I don't think you can probably do it with anything other than pastel matte. You put it in as you see it, right? All the greys, and mainly that's only three basic colours there. You've got a little bit of white, but not much. It's the 270. I think I mentioned this last week, 270. And you've got 273, and then you've got 175. Now, basic, they're the only colours you've actually got in that. There's just a touch of black in the eye, but very little. Very little black used on this. You don't need it. You've got the intensity of 175, which is dark sepia, and that gives you the color that we're looking for. Now, so as I say, when do you put that ochre in? But you can see it. You can probably just see it. Now, when I show on the video, I actually stop halfway. For instance, when I've done the ear, I'll stop and say, now, can you see a difference? Well, you can just see a difference. And what happens is you put it on afterwards. Everything is added. You can't include it in the colouring. It wouldn't work. So you put it on afterwards, and very, very lightly, it's almost like a dusting, a dusting on the top. But you can't touch it. Once you've done it, you leave it alone.
Wow.
It's amazing, isn't it, how what you can do. But that you can, I don't think there's any area. Well, yeah, there is an area. If you look at the tusk, right, the left-hand tusk, the lighter one of the two, and you look above that, you can see the ochre influence, can't you? You look below that, and it's not there. I haven't put it in yet. You can just see a slight difference. That's grey as opposed to the ochre. And that's what's made this an outstanding picture, really. And I say I can't wait to finish it. I'm going to be sad when I have. I should want to do another one because it's been such an interesting, fascinating. I can't wait to get back up there and have another go at it now, having seen this.
Brilliant. Well, it's looking fantastic. The progress that you've made this week, seeing those color builds up, seeing it come to life, and those realistic textures is so interesting. I hope that people have found this interesting as well, and I hope that people are looking forward to doing it. It's been a while since you've done an elephant. You haven't done many, and it was probably a little while ago that you last did an elephant. So it's going to be a refreshing review for people to get back into doing elephants, and with all of your knowledge and skills that you've gained since you did the last one. Lovely stuff. Good. Well, we had one other thing that I've just remembered that we need to include. We had an email that came in from Lorraine. Do you remember this, Dad? We're going to talk about this week. I just remembered just now. And Lorraine sent us an email. I'm just going to find it. Lorraine says, I've just finished a mixed media project for my son's birthday present. He's very keen on photographing nebulae, I think that's how you say it, as a hobby, so I thought I'd try one in pastel pencils. What a headache. I've enclosed a picture of the original photo and my effort, which I'm not that happy about. The colours in the photo were almost neon, and I really couldn't match the colours as vibrant with my pastel pencils. I tried gel pens, which wouldn't go over pastel matte, and pastels already put down, and ended up using acrylic pens. Paint pens. Have you any idea what I could have used? Now, this is so interesting because this is a picture that I wouldn't have thought it would be. I mean, it's obviously not easy, but I wouldn't have thought you'd be able to do with pastels. So let me just go to share my screen and we can see that. This was the picture that Lorraine was doing with the nebula on the left and her picture on the right there, you can see. And obviously that just looks, how do you interpret that? Like, that just looks so hard. And I think she's done really well considering getting the brightness. We did reply to Lorraine, Dad, but for the sake of everyone else watching and listening, describe what you would attempt in this picture.
Well, I think she's very, very brave to do it. I've never done it. You've mentioned it to me a few times. Would you like to do it? No, thank you. Not for me, because I knew that I wouldn't be able to do it justice. And Lorraine's found that. Now, what's happened here is typical of acrylic. Acrylic is like a plastic, really. Once you put it in, you've had it. That's it. You can't do anything with it. Whereas with pastel, and to a certain extent, watercolor, you can temper it a little bit. You can play with it a little bit. Well, you can't with acrylic. You can't do it. Even you put more on, watered it down. You can't do anything with it. But there might be an answer, and it's worth trying on one little section of that. And that is to use the pastel pencil on top of acrylic. Now, I know that years ago, gosh, I don't know how many years ago, 30 odd years ago, when I was doing shows in London, I met a couple of artists who used to use acrylic and pastel pencil on top of acrylic.
Oh, wow.
You can't do it the other way around, obviously. So, and I thought, well, that's interesting. I have tried it. It's never successful. It's not for me. I don't need it. But if you were to use the pastel pencil, same colours on that, just that one little section, you might be able to diffuse it. You see, that's what you need to do. You need to diffuse it, temper it. Worth a try.
Yeah,
I wouldn't
absolutely.
have attempted
it. It does look extremely difficult. Well done, Lorraine, for getting as far as you did. And yeah, if you do work on it, let us know.
Yes, give it
What it
a
comes
go.
out like. And equally, if anyone else out there has done anything similar, please feel free to share.
Well, you've
your
got
tips.
you've got nothing to lose with that, Steve. If you put the pastel pencil on top, because you can rub the pastel out, and you won't affect the acrylic, so you can put it back to where it was. So you've got nothing to lose.
The other question Lorraine had was, I've completed a rabbit for my son-in-law's birthday present, as he kept a rabbit when he was a child, but it died 2 years ago. My daughter sent me a picture of the rabbit, so I used that as a reference. I would appreciate your thoughts on what green I could have used to get me to the right hue and vibrancy. I've still got time to redo it. So I'm just going to show you two pictures. I'm going to show you first one and then one with the background. So this is without the background and the photos in the picture. So that's this cute little rabbit that Lorraine's done. And then on what green she could have used. So I'm going to just flick over to the green background that she's done on the picture as well. So, Dad, what are your thoughts on the background? Having seen the reference picture just then, what would you have done?
I certainly wouldn't put green on. That's for sure. Absolute sure. It doesn't. There's nothing in that picture that warrants you putting green on. The only thing you've got to think about is, well, it's probably running on grass. Why don't you put it on grass? Well, I wouldn't do that. I would have used some of the colours that on the original photographic. Did we show the photograph? I don't think we.
Yeah, I'll go back to that just as you're talking about it. I'll go back to that. So
it's the photograph. It's the photograph I'm looking for now. You see how much nicer that background is. If you ignore the fact you've got all those struts and so on, if you would take the fan out or the light out or whatever that is,
that's a
imagine
fan,
that's not there. Why don't you use the same color you've got there? You can easily do it, and that color would look much, much nicer as a background. I mean, to be honest, the background without a background looks better than the green, in my opinion. I'm only saying what I would do. So I would use those colors. I would put a background in. You've got to, I think. But I would use a background like that. Maybe add a little bit of color, a little bit of tone in. You've got plenty of colors in that rabbit to work with. I wouldn't make it lighter. I'd make it slightly darker than especially where the paws are, because they'll shown up. That's what I would do.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, I hope that's interesting, Lorraine. I hope that's, and for others watching, I'd forgotten that we were going to talk about that because, as you know, as we get these requests that come in, sometimes it's nice to share your tips and advice on what you would do, so that yeah, other people can, if they have the same thing, they can follow what you would do and remember how you would tackle it. And those are two good ones. And I don't think we've ever had anyone do us like a space nebula picture before, so that was definitely something worth talking about. Thanks, Lorraine. I hope that's helpful. If anyone else has anything they'd like us to discuss, anything tricky that they're encountering, then always let us know and we can talk about it like that on the podcast and share your advice, Dad. But for now, we will leave it there, and we'll discuss the hopefully finished elephant picture next week and see that completed. But for now, that's it for this week. I'm Stephen Bradley.
And I'm Colin Bradley. Enjoy
Enjoy
your
your
week.
week.